Hey everyone, this is Ryan Hicks, and I'm here to give some of my thoughts on the newest episode of Twin Peaks Season 3, Episode 14, We Are Like the Dreamer. The episode kicks off with Gordon getting a call from Frank Truman, and it's Truman that's called him to let him know that they found some missing pages of Laura Palmer's diary, and that it indicates two Coopers, and that he thought he would let Cole know, you know. And Gordon says that he can't really say anything about it, but that helps him very much. Thank you very much. We see that Albert tells Tammy about the first case of Blue Rose, 1975 case in Olympia, Washington, involving Lois Duffy. There was two women inside. There was a shot that rang out, and one woman shot the other woman. The woman that was shot was Lois Duffy, and her last words were, "I am like a blue rose." And the agents that were on the scene were Gordon Cole and Philip Jeffries. This points to that Lois Duffy was a doppelganger, that there was two of them, and then they said once she died on the floor, her body disappeared, indicating that she probably went to the Black Lodge, perhaps. She was wearing an owl ring, but very much what we've seen with that. But that's kind of a clear indication that there was some sort of doppelganger with her. And they talked about after the trial that Lois Duffy hanged herself and she died. It's interesting. Cole asked Diane, did Cooper mention Major Briggs? And she says, fuck you, Gordon. And then yes, he did. They get talking about that they found Major Briggs, and that in his stomach he had this ring, and it said, to Dougie, love Janie. And Diane talks about her half-sister, Janie, who has a husband, Douglas Jones, in Las Vegas. Now this is strange because she would recognize that Douglas Jones looks a lot like Cooper, but because they're estranged, maybe she never met Douglas Jones. That's an interesting connection, and I wonder about that because it seems that Diane is kind of working for evil Cooper. We're not sure, and why she would give the FBI this information that would lead them to them, especially from that last message that Cooper sent to her Las Vegas. They haven't asked yet. Not sure how that's going to play out. I really don't know what's going on with Diane, whose side she's on. It's kind of conflicting things like that, but that's interesting that happened. Gordon Cole calls the FBI in Las Vegas. I'm just wondering about that, yeah. And I wonder why Dougie's ring would be inside Briggs. My speculation is that Briggs met Dougie in the lodge, and that this was a way of Briggs leaving a clue that would eventually lead them to finding Cooper by swallowing this ring. And he knew what was happening. He knew men were after him, and that this way he could hide the ring by swallowing it, and that they'd eventually find it. That's maybe what it finds. That he intentionally put it there, just like he intentionally left those pages for Bobby to find to bring them to the Jackrabbit's palace. He knew. So then, of course, Cole calls Las Vegas to find out what they know about Douglas Jones. And they say, I think there's 23 Douglas Jones, and then the one FBI agent says, how many times do I have to tell you? This is what we do in the FBI. And he's very mad. Why he's mad, don't know. Then we hear, we see the window washer coming by with the squeegeeing. What that significance is, I don't know. Maybe we'll find out. But anyways, Cole says he had another Monica Bellucci dream. He said another, indicating that he's had these before. We hear this electrical hum. So as soon as he starts to talk about it, we hear this hum in the background. He says Cooper was there, but I could not see his face. Monica Bellucci says the ancient phrase, "We are like the dreamer who dreams and then lives inside the dream." And then she later asks, but who is the dreamer? And Cole says, a very powerful, uneasy feeling came over me after hearing this. And then she looked over his shoulder, and he looked back, and he saw himself from long ago in Philadelphia, listening to Cooper tell him about a dream. And that's the day that Philip Jeffries came back. And Philip Jeffries looked at Cooper, pointed at him, and says, who do you think that is there? And pointed at Cooper. Now, apparently, I don't know if this is a continuity thing, but earlier in the season they were saying that Cooper was recruited by Philip Jeffries, but then in the flashback they're talking about that he never met him. He was like some recruit. I don't know, that maybe isn't a continuity thing, but it's interesting. Cooper said he had a dream at 10 a.m. on Friday, February 13th. Significance of that, don't know. But a dream. And then we see Hawk, Andy, Truman, and Bobby getting ready to go to Jack Rabbit's palace. Just before they get ready, Deputy Chad is arrested. He says, you're making a big mistake. I assume that Lucy was on to him. They said they've been watching him for months, so they probably got what they needed out of Miriam's testimony. Yeah, so what else they have on him, we don't know. We'll find out. The officers go to the point where Briggs told them to go Jack Rabbit's palace. Andy reminds them to put dirt from Jack Rabbit's palace in their pocket, and I'm wondering if when Jerry was out in the woods, if he stumbled upon this opening. They spent so much time with Jerry Horn out in the woods, making this big deal about him being out there. I just wonder if he kind of stumbled upon this point and went inside, and who knows if he did, who knows what he saw. Maybe we'll find out. When we get to Jack Rabbit's palace, the palace itself is like a tree that's been dead, knocked over, but it kind of looks like the place that was in the middle of the ocean in Cooper's dream a little bit. And a strange sound starts. And Bobby says his dad said never wander around here without him. They go the 200 some steps it is east, and we see the woman who fell in Cooper's dream is lying there naked. She's making some sort of sounds, and then at exactly 2:53 this vortex opens, and I noticed that the vortex in the middle was a white light. It wasn't like a dark light. So maybe that's the White Lodge and the Black Lodge, like this is the White Lodge, like where the fireman is. Who knows? It did seem different though, for sure. I noticed, I watched the episode like 3 or 4 times already, and then suddenly I just noticed on last time, there's a certain point where Andy lets go of the woman's hand. Like, he understands, like, okay, I know what I have to do next. So he let go of her hand, he's just kind of waiting for that to happen. Andy gets pulled in, and he meets the fireman. Something the fireman does, he puts up his right hand. I'm the fireman, puts up his right hand. What significance that is, I don't know. This makes sense because it's that episode in episode 8 where the bell was ringing. It's like the fireman answering the bell, answering the call. Like the fireman is answering whenever something bad happens, he answers the call and puts out something good. And we see that in the visions that Andy gets. I'll tell you about that in a sec. Yeah, he sends help. We see many visions of darkness. There's Andy gets an object that he's holding. It almost looks like a pineapple with like some sort of weird thing coming up. And smoke goes up, and as the smoke goes up, there's a portal that opens up, and Andy looks up at it, and we see the experiment, almost like that alien creature that killed those 2 young people. We see the 2 Coopers. We see the day that Laura Palmer died with the student running at the high school. We see a close-up of a phone, an old-fashioned phone, not a cell phone, but like an old-fashioned phone. I'm wondering if that has anything to do with Audrey. We see Lucy. We see the pole with the number 6, and that's the location where that boy was killed. And Andy has a reaction, he goes, oh, at that moment. So I don't know if he recognizes that spot or what. And again, these seem to be all, we see the experiment, that woman that fell down in there too. These seem to be all kind of like bad things, almost like these bad things happen, and then perhaps the fireman sends a response to that to help out. The smoke that went up, and then it goes back into the thing, and then it disappears. And then all of a sudden we see all the policemen back at Jack Rabbit's palace. There's a strange sort of whooshing sound, almost like when the woodsman came out of the woods when Cooper was shot. An interesting parallel there. And none of the men remember what happened. They say, you know, what happened? Well, I don't know. So that's strange. Andy has a plan. He says, we have to get her down the mountain. It's very important. There are people who want her dead. She's fine physically. We need to put her in a cell where she'll be safe. Don't tell anybody about this. And I'm glad this is Andy that's doing that, because Andy is always usually the butt of jokes as being slow or not sharp or whatever. But he's the one that's smart and has the plan and is ready to go. You know, way to go, Andy. In the cell, we see Deputy Chad down there. We see the woman is taken down there, and we see a man bleeding out of his mouth. Same almost as that girl that was in the car with the honking. That same sort of blood coming out. I have an idea who he might be. I'll tell you that in a second. The girl seems to be making animal sounds, and the man who is bleeding seems to imitate her. He's like a parrot. He imitates everything everybody says, including Deputy Chad. And then we flash to the loading docks at the Great Northern. We see this kid with a green glove on, and we see Jimmy, who's James, and we hear the story of this kid from London. And he tells the story of he was going home from drinking at the bar one night, and he went down this back alley and jumped into these boxes, and all of a sudden was in this like vortex, and he met this fireman, and the fireman told him specific instructions about getting this glove, where it would be, and he says it'll give you power. You will need to go to Twin Peaks, and there you will find your destiny. I think this is a big setup for some sort of battle happening, and we're like getting these signs, and this guy from London is going to be hopefully on Dougie's, you know, Cooper, the good Cooper's side. Why he'll need that strength, who knows, but we'll find out, hopefully. Then he reminds him to go check the furnace, and James goes to check the furnace at the Great Northern. He hears the same sort of humming close to the boiler room behind a door. So what's behind the door, we don't know. Next scene is Sarah at a bar, and a creepy man approaches her. He's awful. They obviously made him as awful as he can. He looks disgusting. Kind of reminded me of Leo with his long hair and stuff like that, but he's awful. She says, you know, leave me alone, go back to where you were, and he keeps persisting. He says some terrible things, and he threatens her. And at that point, she pulls the mask off her face, and it's blackness, and it looks like there's like a white hand that's like grabbing a face and showing this like smile. Some people have said if you superimpose like the face of Laura Palmer on there, that does it. Like that's maybe Laura with the, I don't know, I have no idea. It's crazy, was not expecting that. And then she bites his throat off, as you do. And she acts surprised when the bartender comes up and asks her about it and is suspicious. She looks at him and says, sure is a mystery, huh? Which almost seems kind of like a threat to him, to like back off. I don't know. And then the next scene we have the two girls talking at the Roadhouse, and this one girl asks, you getting high in there? And she says, don't go in that nut place. What is that nut place? I have no idea. I assume, you know, it's about all these drugs. They're talking about all these drug references that are happening in Twin Peaks, like someone's bringing in drugs, like that red guy, or how Richard has something to play with it. But what that nut place, whatever that place is, no idea. The one girl asks, have you seen Billy? And she says this story about, yeah, I saw him. He ran into our house. He had blood running down his nose at Tina's house. Her mom is Tina. And she said that, you know, she's aware that Billy and her mom have been seeing each other until at least very recently, and any time that her mom, Tina, mentioned Billy, a smile came to her face. So she must really like him. And then he was only there for like 10 to 30 seconds and he ran out again. I'm wondering about that guy with describing the blood that was coming down his face. We saw in the jail cell a guy with blood coming down his face, just pouring out. And I'm wondering if that guy in the jail cell is Billy. What that has to do with anything, I don't know, but it's interesting that he's there. Maybe that's Billy. I don't know. I noticed in this final song that they're singing, there's a lyric about, you know, the Wild Wild West. All that you lost, you get back. All you want, you can have. But I'm going rogue in the Wild West. I've been living with the firelight is none line. I wonder if that has anything to do with Dougie. You know, all that you lost, you get back. Like all this good stuff that has happened to Dougie. You know, I'm going rogue in the Wild Wild West, like Las Vegas West. I don't know, but I'm sure it's intentional. This was a crazy episode. Lots of stuff happening. The story is very much moving forward, and I have no idea how this is going to go. Lots of references to a dream. Is this whole thing a dream? I don't know. That seems kind of a cop-out. Like, I think they did that on Dallas with Bobby, that it was all a dream and he didn't really die. Who knows what's going to go on, but the dreams obviously have something big to do with the story, and I'm just loving it. It also makes me sad because we're getting closer to the end. There's 18 episodes and we're done 14. We only have 3 episodes left, and I have no idea how they can resolve much of this story with only 3 episodes left. Whether that's setting up something for a potential season 4, I wouldn't put money on it. I don't know, but I'm really enjoying it. I really did not see things coming, like Andy, you know, being the one that kind of like saves the day, or Laura Palmer ripping someone's throat out. Sarah Palmer, sorry, not Laura, Sarah Palmer. It's wonderful. It's wonderful television. I'm enjoying the ride, and yeah. So, if you have any comments, please leave them here. I have some other thoughts, but I don't want to really give them, just because I don't know. I really don't know, but I am enjoying the ride, and I think it's a good thing for anybody to go back and look at the earlier episodes, and I think you can find some clues there. And I think, you know, whether things are running at the same time or things are out of time, I think that's very much a possibility. So who knows? Hope you guys are having a great day, and looking forward to episode 15 coming up later this week. Thank you.